I don't need more people that are checked out, checking a box. What I need is more employees that are alive, that are engaged, that are doing what fulfills them. That's their passion and purpose and why they're on this planet, and that things they can do better than anybody else.
Hey, it's Nikki, Llewellyn Gregory, and you're on Gut Plus Science. You're in for a fast-paced, storytelling, action item-rich leadership growth experience. I hope you make this podcast a habit. I consider it a leadership mentoring tool. Learning together makes us better together, and that is how we change the world around us. Let's get to it. Hey, it's Nikki back on Gut Plus Science, and today's episode is all about challenging the way we think about work and how we can design better, more fulfilling work experiences. I am so here for that. That's what I work for every day. I have my friend Mike Montague with me today. He's the author of Playful Humans, and he's passionate about the power of play in the workplace. We're going to talk about how play isn't the opposite of work. It's where our best self comes out. So, Mike, I've known you for a while, and I know this Playful Humans concept has been, since I've known you, part of how I know you. But I don't really know the backstory. Where does this passion come from to help people play at and through work?
Well, I think it goes all the way back to childhood for me. And I love the name of your show, Gut Plus Science, because I've always kind of felt that my world was that way. My dad was like a long line of business people, salespeople, very serious. I'm like, the oldest Montague without $1 million in the bank. Like they're all like hard driven, very structured, very serious competitors and stuff. I would say he was one of 4 boys. My mom, on the other hand, was one of 3 girls in her family. My grandmother was super creative and playful and encouraged us to be fun. And my great grandmother was a piano teacher, like very artistic, a lot of like fashion designers, entertainers, and musicians on that side of the family. And I felt like I grew up with this like humor plus professionalism, like very logical, science-based brain. And I got like a 36 in math in science on my ACTs and stuff, and was in a nerd camp in the summers in high school. But I also had this creative, playful side, and I love to play sports and act or do silly things or perform on stage and stuff. And so where it all really comes from me is trying to figure out how to balance those things and what really constitutes maybe the most fulfilling life, and not trying to fit into one of those buckets, but take advantage of both of them.
That's so good. And I'm just still so fascinated on how did humanity get to the place that, we got to put my suit and tie on and I got to act this way and do this thing. And, by golly, I can't have my dog here with me because that would be unprofessional or whatever that is. I don't know where that comes from, but we're here to break that.
Well, let's jump into it. Right?
Yeah.
In short, the answer to that question is sort of the Puritan work ethic religion combined with industrialization in America. So when America was founded in the early 1900s, we needed human beings to be machines. We didn't have machines. So we needed a workforce of people if we were going to industrialize to like work in a factory. And so we could do 3 8-hour shifts. We could work a human for about 8 hours of physical labor without them breaking down, dying, and all kinds of other stuff. And we designed the school system and stuff to kind of treat everybody the same, to create factory workers. And so before that, life was a lot different. You were kind of just all about survival. You're doing your thing. You worked when you had to. You played when you could. And, family were really close and things because they had to be for survival. But in the 1900s, that's when it all changed. We really started to get into there's right, there's wrong. We need you to be this if you're going to be successful. And we need this carrot out here as the American dream. And so I try not to be too pessimistic because it all served a purpose there for us. But then we started developing machines, and now we have AI, and the world has changed, and most of us are not worried about survival anymore. And most companies don't need human beings to be machines. So we need to really rethink what it is in a modern workforce and what makes us actually happy and fulfilled versus what is going to fulfill the needs of the corporation that we work for.
Well, and some days I don't say this statement, but right now I'm like, thankful I live in this time and place, right? And you got to see, so Mike Montague, you'll probably hear it throughout, has various talents. Like, first of all, the radio voice, but then he goes into philosopher mode and historian to kind of tee this up. So many colors, very playful with Mike. And let's dig into, not every job is created equal. And particularly a lot of your work is intersecting with AI and how it's just changing everything for all of us. But just leaning into that is the reality. Like we're not these machines. This is how there's so much variety, and we have to treat each job or role as unique as it is. Speaking to that.
Yeah, when I was researching for my book, I kind of discovered that we think about work as one thing. Like it's sort of work or play, and work is the opposite of play, and you're either working or you're not working. And those things aren't true. There's many different types of work. And I think this really helps us have this discussion that if we think about physical labor, like if you're going to build a brick wall or something, hard work equals success. And that's where all of those old mantras and the hustle mindset and everything comes from, is that like, if you're going to drive across the country, it's kind of miles per hour, right? The faster you go or the longer you go, like there's some clear work that hard work gets you more success. But there's another type of work, which most of us do now, like 80% of us are in the intellectual work stage, where hard work does not always equal more success. You can be working on the wrong problem and waste your entire day. Or there's this diminishing returns curve for intellectual work, where just as human beings, it's kind of like our body breaks down and gets tired. Our brain does too, that after about 6 hours of work, you slow down so much that you kind of require exponential effort to keep going. And so a lot of people think that like hard work equals success in intellectual work, but that's not true. Research studies with computer programmers and other intellectual work shows that if you work more than 60 hours a week for more than 6 weeks in a row, your brain slows down so much that you actually produce less than if you had just worked 40 hours and gone home and saved the 20 hours work. Wow. So working those extra 20 hours actually exhausts your brain more than it does stopping. And you could have just stopped at 40. You're producing less over time. And that's extremely powerful by itself. But now AI is sort of kicking in there. And so AI can do some of this intellectual work too, where it used to be writing a report or making a PowerPoint or writing a blog post. If you're a marketer, any of those were intellectual tasks. They've become a lot faster and easier. AI can pick up some of that intellectual work.
Oh my gosh, totally.
But lucky for us, there's a third kind, which is the spiritual work. And I know you and a lot of people that listen to your show and in your network are in this type of work too, where if you're in sales, we know that hard work doesn't equal success. Actually, it's the opposite. The harder you try to sell somebody, the less likely they are to buy from you, right? We're all like, ooh, pushy, commission breath, like back off. I'm getting away from this person. And so there, it also happens to be with emotional work of connecting with a human being, trying to make somebody love you, trying to make somebody feel heard. The more you try, the less authentic you are. And it's actually giving people space and backing off, or knowing when to break the rules or to do something unusual and not be in a pattern, is where we get our best work and the highest rate of success. So for a salesperson, rather than the 40 hours of work, they could take 4 days off and play golf, but make the biggest sale of the year on Friday. And we wouldn't complain that they didn't put in the hours or work hard, right? And so this type of spiritual work, I think, is really hard for AI and other robots and machines. And it's probably going to be the last thing that we're going to offload to somebody else. So we really need humans. And I think the human work is connecting emotionally, being creative, coming up with an idea that's never been come up with before, solving creative problems for people, or most importantly, what I said about understanding the context and knowing when to break the rules, because AI is really great at predicting what the most probable outcome is. But just because something's going to happen 80% of the time, that means you're going to piss off 1 in 5 buyers if you do it that way.
Totally.
So we can't make that rule for everybody, right? It's really interesting.
This is so interesting. And, leadership is really the theme of the show. Like, how do we lead more meaningful work in a better way and learning new things? And so it's always been a challenge, like engagement statistics, they're not getting better. It's like, how is this? Like, all of these companies are working on being the best place to work, but then they just keep getting worse. And it's something. Anyway, helping leaders to meet people where they are, to understand, the physical versus intellectual versus emotional. Every business has a variety. How do we help leaders really lead intentional design of work experiences for people? Walk us through your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot in the book too, because I think some of it goes back to the point I just made, which is some of those engagement programs, they're inauthentic. It's forcing the emotional work, right? Of like, okay, I know we just worked 80 hours today and the revenue's down and we're all going to lose our jobs, but let's have a pizza party on Friday and everybody just let loose. And we really care about you as employees. And you're like, yeah, that's great, until you lay off my best friend that's been working here for 20 years, right? Like those things don't align. So the authenticity is a big first step, which is hard, but I think you got to really work on the values of the company and putting other people first. So in Avenue 9, my AI marketing agency, I talk about human first AI in a lot of different ways, which is like customers first, but customers aren't always right. The market is usually right. If you look at customers in a whole as a group, they are generally correct. If we poll the audience usually has the right answer. But any individual customer can be a jerk. They can be wrong. They could want something that you don't deliver. There's a lot of bad things that can happen. And so I think we got to be careful about putting customers first, but we can put employees first. And a lot of the research and science shows that happy employees create happier customers. They get more referrals. They're more profitable. Playful salespeople sell 37% more than serious, hardworking salespeople and stuff. So I think there's a lot of myths and things that we can change if we look into it and work on creating the atmosphere and environment that allows people to play, to do their best work, to take time off and rest. And so maybe another one of the frameworks I could give you are my 5 Ps. I like it. That to keep people happy, performing, and doing their best, there's kind of 5 aspects to this. And a lot of people focus on the performance side of like, we need them to do their work and be successful and accomplish the goals. That's one part of it. We also, as human beings, need to pause for a minute and think about what we're doing, just take a break and rest. So pause is one, ponder is another, thinking about it. We need to play. We need that creative time to just maybe try something that's not going to work, to be creative a little bit, to think outside the box and experiment with things. And then the other big one that people miss is practice. So much in business, we focus on like, let's do the 40 hours of work. We're going to perform at our best. It doesn't work that way. I like the professional athlete analogy that like, NFL athletes practice 40 hours a week and then they perform like 3 hours a week, right? Think about how long Olympic athletes train so that they can perform at their best for a very short amount of time. Human beings are wired that way. They're not wired to perform 40 hours a week and then maybe go to a 3-hour seminar or have 3 hours on the weekend to read a book or study or get better at what they do. It just doesn't work that way. So I think we got to take a lot of pressure off. We got to back off and then we got to mix things up.
Yeah. So redesigning towards this intentional, meaningful outcome that we're trying to be the leaders of. It's really rooted in changing the way that we think about work, right? First of all, our own awareness on how we think about work and doing deep reflection there. So we'll put that over in the bucket. We kind of like poke some fun on like, really, okay, the pizza party and this and that. Like my favorites are, favorites to make fun of are, we're working 80 hours a week or whatever. My best friend just got let go, but hey, you'll get your $50 gift card if you vote for us to be best places for the 17th year in a row. And people are like, I want the gift card. I mean, okay. But then you walk in and you see the sticker on the door and you're like, really? Talk about inauthentic, right? So it just doesn't, it's a facade, right? That's not real. And people sniff that out quickly. We're trying to get to the true, authentic, whether we've got the accolades or whatever, people there feel connected and they're like, I'm like in flow state. Like, I love this work. Like, and so you talked about the 5 P's: performance, pause, ponder, play, and practice. And we put so much emphasis on the performance. When we start to shift, we're like, oh, I'm starting to see this differently. And there's 5 things, not just one performance. How do, like, examples of how companies start to scale incorporating pause, ponder, play, practice? Like, what does that look like? Because I don't think it's far-fetched to say a lot of them are starting at a clean slate.
Yeah, I don't think so. And look, we all know that culture change is hard. Behavior change is hard. So it's a process. And I think that some of those things are well intentioned and are great starts. So gamification is a fun way to create a little contest for people. And so everybody loves points. Everybody loves a gold star. The reward recognition is great. The spot awards or the $50 gift card for doing a thing is fun. That's a part of the reward system.
When it's authentic, right? Right. When it's like, hey, just go ahead to get your gift card so that we can get the award sticker for the door, right? Not that, but gamification for, we're looking to celebrate others' successes regularly and you're getting points for shout outs, like that.
Yeah, I like that too. And you brought up an interesting point that is also in my book, is that giving other people points is actually even more rewarding. It's better for the person getting them and for the person giving them. So instead, give somebody a $50 gift or to award to one of their fellow employees and stuff is actually more fun for them than getting the $50 gift card themselves. We don't think that at the beginning, but it is. But I think there's a lot of other parts to this as well. So fulfilling work has some key characteristics. Choice and control are the 2 biggest ones. And so I think when you force somebody to do something, it gets tiring right away. Even if we do this to ourselves, that was one of my biggest concerns about some of the work that I do and the Playful Humans project was, if I try to make play my job, am I going to hate it? Because, now instead of choosing to have fun with my friends, I have to host a game show for them. And I have to do a lot of work and I got to set up all this other stuff. All of a sudden, when you get paid to do something, it lowers the intrinsic value of it. So we have to be careful about that. But anywhere we can give employees multiple choices, either in the order that they do things, the priorities, the types of work that they can do. When things get repetitive, they get boring for humans. We're just not built that way. And the other thing is control. When you feel like you're out of control and you can't create the environment to be successful, I think in toxic companies, this happens a lot, where you're like, okay, well, I can do my job and we're still going to miss the number this quarter. And so really, I'm just like, bailing water out of this, battleship with a tin cup. And I'm not making a difference at all, right? We're trying to boil the ocean on this thing. So like, sure, I can do my job, but it's not going to result in positive wins for the outcome. So I think you really, as a leader, need to think about the jobs you're giving people. Like, do they feel the responsibility and ownership of that job? Are they going to feel successful when they accomplish it? We all know that there's jobs in the company that nobody really wants to do. And that's how I think you got to work on making them better. Either make those short-term tasks, let people alternate their jobs so they don't have to do the grunt work job all of the time, or the busy work stuff that's like, hey, we just need somebody to enter all these numbers in the spreadsheets. That's just the way it is. It's not possible to automate it yet at this point. If you do this, we'll reward you with this other type of job, or do this for a short period of time, and then we'll get you out of that role and move it to somebody else. Things like that, I think, let people up. When they feel trapped and when they really, do the quiet quitting or burnout, it's because those things happen all the time. Every single day, I don't have choice and control. Chaos versus randomness is a great way to think about this as a leader too. An organization that's in chaos and you just go, hey, everybody, you show up to work today, you do whatever you want. whatever makes you feel good, guys, you go and do that. And then we'll see what happens. That's probably not the best place to work in, right? People do like boundaries. They like frameworks. They like knowing that they're all rowing in the same direction, the values and the guiding star and the goals. But too much control is the same thing. If I say, you have to sit here, you can't move, I need you to punch A, B, C in order over and over again 1,000 times, you're going to get bored with that really fast. So what I like thinking about is how can you switch between those things? How can we put a little bit of control on it and then give you a little bit of freedom? And then once you have a little bit of freedom, let's put some constraints and controls on it, or let you move back and forth between tasks. And that's what makes life interesting for people, especially over the long term.
I like that. I had an amateur podcast host moment a minute ago. I was running through the 5 Ps and I'm like, hello, hone in on play. I know you have like all of I think there's like 10 or 8 or something like that. Is it in your book that the types of play? And so when we were thinking through, okay, there's performance. That's what you call it, performance. We're like most that performance, but then there's these others. If we just look at play and the ideas of how we incorporate, I don't know if you want to share all of them or walk through some of them or whatever, but you've got a recipe book. So share.
Yeah. And people can go take the quiz and figure out what your playful personality is. Just go to playfulhumans.com/quiz. It's 10 questions that I made up for fun. It's not scientific at all. So it's a little more gut than science on this one, but I have gotten good responses and output from people taking the quiz, because this is another thing we can think about as we tie it to work and the conversation we have on leaders is that not everybody's built the same. We know this. The number one hiring mistake people make is they hire people like themselves. And then you have 2 people that don't want to do what you don't want to do, right? Great teams are a balance and mix of things. So when we think about how people play, some people like to do puzzles and solve problems or challenges or board games. Other people like sports and physical activities. They like rough and tumble play. They want to get out and they're adrenaline junkies and mix it up. Other people like social interactions. They want to host a cocktail party. Or there's people maybe like you, Nikki, too. I found myself as a podcaster is the producer role, where I actually like to create an atmosphere and environment for other people to look good. So I'd rather host the party than be in the party itself. It's sort of a ambivert, introverted, extroverted personality where you're like, I like people. I just don't want to be in the people. That's a little too messy.
I can so relate to that.
Yeah. So there's lots of other things. People like the outdoors and exploring. You know, there's fishers, there's artists and creators and people that like to paint and write, or people that are just, we always think of the funny joke teller, right? The comedian stereotype where I like to have funny jokes and wear bright clothes and be silly. That's one type. But when we look about what really makes us happy, there's usually 1 to 3 drivers in those things that we find ourselves gravitating towards. And I equate this to like a cell phone analogy, that when we're operating in our preferred mode, we're like plugged in to the wall. We can go all day. We're like, oh man, I can build Lego or I can solve puzzles all day long until my fingers hurt. I just like doing it. This one behind me, if you're watching the video version, is over 3,000 pieces. It took multiple days of doing it. So that's when I'm plugged in and I'm into it. And that's what we want for work, is really people that are plugged in, right? They're energized and they're engaged. They're working in their zone of their personality. When you're not, you can still do it. I like doing other things. I like adventure. I like getting outside. I like social situations. I like telling jokes. I like producing stuff for other people. When I'm doing that, it's like I'm on battery power. I've unplugged the cell phone from the wall, and I can do that for a short period of time, but eventually I'm going to burn out and I'm going to run out of steam. And so I think when you're looking at what keeps you going, happy and fulfilled, you got to look at what gives you energy versus what takes it. And then also when you're managing other people, whether it's, you know, kids or employees or other teammates or even your bosses and stuff, if you ask your boss who doesn't like spreadsheets to go analyze your 1,000 spreadsheets you just put together, they're going to resist. They're going to push back on that. And you're going to start getting burnout and frustration with the types of things that you're being asked to do.
So I'm curious how you would guide a leader that was very much wanting to incorporate play for their people. They're like, I see it. Okay. Um, and knowing what you just said around this person, play to them is playing the drums or music or something. And this person is knocking out this crazy Lego thing that you're like, it took 3 days. I'm like, oh, it's taken me a year. Like you acted like 3 days. I was like, oh, that is dense. But we're all different in what play is to us. How does a leader, a workplace start to create an atmosphere to maybe not meet every single need of everyone, but to, find ways of play that allow that to be part of the culture? What does that look like? Maybe give a story of somebody that does it well.
Yeah, I think it's the ones that set up different activities for the different folks. I think what happens again is the number one mistake is, you know what, I like Top Golf. Let's just go to Top Golf and we'll invite the whole company and go, people, well, I'm not sporty. I don't like social environments. Like this is going to be miserable. I don't want to hang out after work hours with my work folks either. So like doing it within work hours is a great first tip, but also giving people ways to engage in the way that they like to engage with it. So the party planning committee is usually filled of those producers, those social people who like to put on stuff for other people. So give people a chance to raise their hand, I think is the key. I think there's no such thing as mandatory fun. Play is inherently in the definition chosen. So I think giving them multiple opportunities to opt into stuff and say, hey, we're going to have a rec league basketball team or pickleball team, but we're also going to have somebody, do baked goods or something before to raise money, or we need somebody to design the jerseys and pick the team name and marketing, could you help us with this? Or find ways to get people to produce what they want to produce as a playful aspect, I think is key. And even when you see those typical best places to work things, that's why the arcades and the pool, ping pong tables and stuff go unused, is for several reasons. But one of them is it's just not for everybody. Right. And so you want to allow people that work in groups to work in groups, those that like and prefer solo time to do their solo time, but find ways to let each person show their side and opt into the stuff that they like to opt into.
It was just making me think about times of different work teams I've been around. And I have at some point definitely been the person that judged so-and-so for not being part of whatever that I thought was like so fun. But it's coming from a place of, this is my way of fun, play. And just because somebody didn't opt in to come, not everybody has to think that the Top Golf is the way to engage. And we all only have so much time, and we want them to be selective with that. Doesn't mean that they don't want to be around people. I think just thinking about that and leaving the ego aside, where there's many different options throughout the year. Let's ask people and get some, data from their feedback to know what kinds of things, and not everybody has to be at everything, and don't take it personal. Do your best to, give those options and encourage. It's like, for our team, we have unlimited PTO and we encourage days of recharging. And that could be an incredible day alone or with your family or kids or whoever, friend. And that is super fun, right? That you're using those days and it's a paid day off and you get to enjoy what you like to do. And great. That could be the way.
Yeah. Re-energizing is huge. You brought two more things to mind for me. And the book is quite large. If I didn't mention it, there's like 52 different rules to play that are in 4 buckets of like connection building, creativity building, confidence building is another huge one we haven't hit on yet. And then like physical and mental conditioning, just making yourself better and stronger through play that a lot of people miss. And I think owners and leaders of companies miss a lot, is that those play activities, that day off is actually what gives you the energy to do the other stuff. Or the times when we're goofing around is when we actually build connection and build an idea. Nobody's had their best idea at work in a brainstorming session. You get your best ideas when you're walking the dog, you're in the shower, you're on the pickleball court, or you're doing the Lego. That's when you go, oh, you know what I just thought of? Because we're in a totally different emotion set. So I will bring some science into it this time. Hard science is the dose chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins trigger when we're in a state of play. When we're in a state of stress and panic, our brain shuts down. We focus on one way to survive the situation. We can't be creative at all. It's all about pressure and survival at that point. So what we need to do is create circumstances for people to get into that dose state, to be in a playful state, to have creative ideas, to feel fulfilled, to release that stress so that then they can go back into maybe a stressful situation and feel better about it. But I want to give one more warning, which was there's different types of play here too, as far as what I kind of call the levels of play. And it's a trap, I think, based on partly economics and then partly just misconceptions in our society, that there's kind of a lot of stuff that's fake play. And we need to be careful about that, especially in HR or trying to build engaging teams, is that it doesn't really work. Things like alcohol, things like the forced fun and the other meetings, they're fake play. Alcohol doesn't release those endorphins. You're not connecting with other people. It can go bad really fast. And it creates this fake environment where we're not actually having fun. We're just being drunk at that point. And so I use that as a clear example, but there are other things like video games or social media where social media isn't social at all. You're by yourself scrolling, getting your dopamine fix, but you're not getting any of those other three chemicals because you're not connecting with another human being. You're not moving your body. You're not doing other stuff. And then there's partial play where maybe if we're like doing a video game together, you and I, Nikki, we could be working together as a team. We could be having fun, but we're also inside in a room by ourselves, like on a computer. And so we're getting 2 or 3 of those chemicals, but we're not getting all 4. And then we go real play is something where we're moving our body, we're connecting with another human being, we're engaging our mind, and we're having like a joyful, wonderful, novel experience. That's when we really recharge. So I hope that gives people some frameworks to think about, like, are we setting up some sort of fake fun? Like, oh, everybody posts pictures of your pets and everybody likes posting theirs, but we don't want to see the other 6 pictures of other people's dumb dogs.
I do.
You like your own, not other people's. Let's be honest. It's sort of a fake connection. But if you all actually took your dogs out to a dog park together and you walked around, now that's a real connection.
Totally. Yeah. You're making me think about something here. I'm going to bring this up for a second. It might go in a can of worms that we'll have to bring you back for another episode. But okay. So you were talking about the best ideas don't come in the boardroom during the traditional brainstorming session. That is very highly percentage truth, right? Shower moment, on a walk, whatever, solving problems. When we are engaged in our work, you think about the percentage of people that, the time that you clock out because you're checking the box to be there because someone is controlling your time and what you were sharing earlier about your choices and controlling and whatever. You don't have the capacity, and I don't know what the neuroscience says on this. I just know that it's true, that your brain is not working in that way, that your brain is only thinking about like protection modes or frustration or whatever. And so when we think about, how we work and truly being engaged, there's so many less hours that are needed truly to be sitting in the seat, because during that time of play and, waiting for the, pickleball break to be over, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just got that idea. Or for me, I really do. This happens in the shower a lot. But if I'm not in a good place, I'm not in a positive, like I want to figure this out rather than I'm just getting by. Like I'm just getting through. Versus on the other side, like thriving. I am in the right role. I'm excited about this. Yeah, there's tough days, but it doesn't really turn off in a healthy way. You got the brain's going to solve those things. But do you think about the amount of people that live that life, that live the engaged way of the work that they do? So therefore that's not happening on the walks or whatever. And it's like, if we could lead that, if we could get people in these right places, so more of that happens, and there's no need for control of a 9 to 5 or when you're on the computer,
Yeah, we kind of teased it earlier, but I was thinking that I said that play and work are considered opposites, but they're not. The opposite of work is not working. It's sloth. It's sitting around on the couch watching Netflix, not contributing at all, right? It's checking out of like you said, and not being engaged at all. Play is like the fun uncle of work. Play is, think about when you were playing as a kid. You'd build huge forts, castles, like you'd set up rules. You'd go collect, 6 people around the neighborhood for a game of tag. You'd be out there all day. Like, you put a lot of physical energy and work into play because you enjoy it. There's this like continuation desire. You want to do more of it. And there is a lot of science to this, that like there are so many benefits of it that there's almost no negative side effects to the playful kind of effort that we expend. So playful people lose weight, they're happier, they smile more, they laugh more, they have better relationships, they have better success at work, better client reviews and net promoter scores, they have more sex. It's incredible, like all of the positive benefits across the board for people that are playful. The ones that are stressed out, we know the stats for that too. So the good kind of stress is called eustress. That's the playful side. The bad stress that you're talking about is when people shut down and they give up, they're not engaged, they're not working out anymore, they're not eating right, they're trying to just fill a void and survive, and they have the stress chemicals and cortisol in their bloodstream instead of those other nice ones. That does terrible.
And at that point, when that's happening, play isn't even fun.
Yeah.
It's forced.
Even really taking a vacation feels like more of like hitting a pause button on the stress. And then as soon as you let go or come off the vacation, you let go of that pause button and all the stress rushes back in, but it doesn't actually relieve the stress. So that's where we got to get people to a playful state to actually change those chemicals in their body and get them into a better place. And it takes some effort, and it takes regular routine and sometimes long breaks to get away from that and be in a place where you can really engage.
And I'm going to quote our friend Amy Woodall and say, we have to own our 50 as individuals in that too, right? Where, leaders creating the environments and making the learning of how we do this better and focused and all that. But we have to do the work on us. There is no leader that can get inside of us to understand, like, what is flow state to you and what really brings it out, and what dynamics do you need? Like, we got to meet in the middle there. So
I'll end with my favorite quote of all time. Is former Supreme Court Justice Howard Thurman said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive." And I think about that as a leader in an organization. I don't need more people that are checked out, checking a box. What I need is more employees that are alive, that are engaged, that are doing what fulfills them. That's their passion and purpose and why they're on this planet, and that things they can do better than anybody else in our marketplace, right? If I can find more of those people, I'll figure out how to get the other stuff done. I can automate it with AI or robots, or I can find some people that are less checked out and pay them less to go do the busy work. But I need difference makers.
Totally. This has been so good. Always love our chats, Mike. Very energizing. And we'll find a time to get back together soon, I'm sure, because it's like scratching the surface and so much more to dig in on. But I love digging into play. And then you mentioned that Playful Humans quiz that you have. We'll link that out in the show notes and share it out and, follow up with this episode. I've never taken it, so I want to go do that. Let's wrap up with our lightning round. This is just super quick. I want to hear from you, your favorite book of all time or a favorite recent read. Share with us a book title.
I have another one back here on my shelf by Douglas Adams. It's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think has been my favorite book since I was like 12 years old. If you've never read any Douglas Adams, pick any of them. It's a super funny sci-fi movie, a book series that is just really fun and creative and silly, and it's a smart silly, which is one of my favorites. I also have Steve Martin back here, and I like the Bare Naked Ladies. They're up here on the shelf too. Like anybody that's smart silly, I call it creative nerdery. That's my favorite.
Is Billy Idol in the lineup back there?
Oh, he is not in the lineup, but you bring that up because when I was a playful DJ in my 20s, I got to performing all kinds of stages. And I was on the radio in Kansas City and all kinds of stuff. It was DJ Romeo, and Billy Idol came to town. His opening act got sick, and they called the radio station to see if somebody could fill in. And I met with Billy Idol and his manager. I got the contract. I get to play music for an hour before he goes on stage. Long story short, I played a song Billy Idol didn't like, and the manager came over and was like, "You're done." The lights go off. My microphone's dead. The sound goes off, and I'm live on stage in front of like 5,000 people. I got fired live on stage by Billy Idol. I did not collect $200. I did not pass go. I just grabbed my equipment and got out of there. That's the short version.
That's a loud memory. What the heck? Oh,
but I love telling that story because there's so many lessons I learned from it. But that's when I became bulletproof as a performer. I can go teach AI marketing or Playful Human stuff or host a game show now, and nothing's worse than being fired by Billy Idol.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I've got the rip the Band-Aid off on that.
So you just recently moved to Boston. I love Boston, and you love the outdoors. Tell us like a favorite outdoor thing or two you've done so far in Boston.
I actually haven't done the Sea-Doos or Wave Runners yet, but I like watercraft because I grew up in Kansas City, as I mentioned. We're about as far away from an ocean as you can get. So I'll go to the beach. I'll try anything. I saw a guy doing a crazy kite surfing thing this weekend. Maybe I'll have to try that out. I am in my 40s though, so my first rule of play is don't get injured. Hurt is okay, but I can't get injured.
So different nowadays. I'm always like, did I really do that before? Never again. Okay.
Can I tell you one more funny one since we're wrapping up? Last summer, I tore my belly button working out. I didn't even know that was possible. But yeah.
You're the only person I've ever met that's torn their belly button. Ever.
It's an umbilical hernia. It usually only happens like when you're pregnant or something. But yeah, working out and tore my belly button. So that took me out last summer. We gotta be careful as you start getting up.
Well, Mike has stories, guys. Mike, what is the best way for listeners to connect with you, follow up, and get to know you or ask you a question or whatever?
My favorite place to hang out is LinkedIn. I do a lot of activity there. I'm also not shy about the podcasts and stuff. So you can go to playfulhumans.com, or my new podcast is Human First AI Marketing. And it's doing really well. That's where I'm doing the new interviews and stuff. But certainly Playful Humans, avenue9.com, or just connect with me, Mike Montague, on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat.
Truth you can act on from my conversation today with Mike Montague. So we challenged the old story that play and work are opposites, and they're not. We unpack 3 kinds of work and why the real wins live in the creative and emotional zone. We talked about the 5 P's: performance, pause, ponder, play, and practice. Give your people choice and control, and design for real play, not forced fun. Leaders set the stage, and each of us, each individual human, owns our 50. We get to own our part. Leaders set the stage, and it's a 50-50 effort, right? So go grab Mike's quiz, the Playful Humans quiz. It's linked in the show notes. Go connect with Mike on LinkedIn. He's got great content. Follow his show. A lot of genius work happening over there with Mike. So I hope that this episode helped you, and feel free to share it with somebody else that you think it can help as well. And we'll see you next time.
We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.